What is up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, and on the phone we got Dani from Bury Tomorrow. Thank you for your time today, man. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. The newest album, Cannibal, which is scheduled to come out this week, is this a direct follow-up to Black Flame? Do you think it's just a continuation of that, or is this just a standout in the Bury Tomorrow catalog?
Yeah, just purely because we've done 5 albums now. This is the 6th that's coming out at Cannibal, and Black Flame was more of an option, well, more of a kind of staple point to our career to kind of say, thank you to all the fans, thank you to everyone that supported us over that time. It's a real fan kind of favorite album, and it was just a celebration really of the, I suppose, many years that we've been a band. And then this one's more of an introspective kind of look as to, well, if I'm really honest with you, it's probably the most emotional record we've ever done. So it connects on a really different level, which when you've been in a band for 14 years, you don't really expect to be learning any new things. So the fact that we are experiencing something brand new is amazing, really.
Yeah. Could these singles that you released so far, Cannibal and Grey, can that almost serve as maybe a clear representation of the direction that this record is going into, or is this just the beginning, just scratching the surface, if you will?
I mean, there's lots of variation. Obviously, I think the blessing of being a band like ours, which is like melodic metal band or metalcore band, however you want to put it, is that we can quite easily tread those lines of either really, really heavy or really, really melodic. So in that, it kind of lends us an opportunity to really experiment with different sounds or how it feels. So in a sense, a bit of column A, bit of column B. So they are Bury Tomorrow tracks through and through. They've got melody, they've got heaviness, but as far as some of the hidden gems that we keep back for the album, there are definitely some shockers in there for sure.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that this was the most emotional Bury Tomorrow album. Was that kind of a preconceived idea to kind of unload everything you've had on this album, or did it kind of just happen that way?
Yeah, I mean, it was an organic process, I suppose, just purely because I'm on my own kind of personal learning journey about my mental health, which appreciate mental health, and over the last couple of years, as I've become kind of well again, I've been able to promote positive and active conversations and reducing stigma around talking about mental health. I had the opportunity of running some safe space sessions for people where we talk about mindfulness and reducing stigma and being okay in ourselves. And so in that, I did that on the latter part of the Black Flame campaign. So it kind of just led me perfectly into a position where I could kind of say, well, I've done 5 albums for the fans now, and albeit the music's always about the fans, this one's kind of an opportunity for me to kind of live by the sword, because I find nothing more neglectful than people kind of saying we should talk about mental health and then giving fans no opportunity to actually talk about mental health. So I think from my perspective, it was a perfect moment in time. So that's the organic part, but then a conscious decision where I chatted to the guys from the band to kind of say, this is not just a one-man band. We have 5 members in this band, and we've all got equal say. And for them to kind of give over our, most critically anticipated album, it's quite a big deal. So I'm thankful that when we had a conversation about it, the rest of the guys were really keen on me just exploring the part and using the biggest platform I have, which is my lyrics, to talk about mental health.
Do you need music before you come up with lyrics, or could the concept mental health or something like that maybe help determine the outcome of the music as well?
A bit of both, yeah. So again, I'm kind of saying a bit of both for everything, really. But yeah, I mean, it's there's often music that'll inspire me and get my kind of the vibes, which really helps me to kind of formulate stuff. I'm always writing lyrics though, so I'm always writing hook lines or catch lines, because that's kind of what I've done since day one, and then kind of try and mould them around the songs. So, but there's no doubt that when you hear a demo or you hear some music, that really hits the spot. But it's really helpful that Dorse, our lead guitarist and writer, he is really, really fascinated by lyrics also. So when we're kind of having conversations about when I've got vibes straight away, he will then adapt songs to be able to kind of fit that vibe. So, when he first writes the song, that's not the song done. It's a long process of us ripping songs apart and
when, you know, having a subject matter, you know, as important as mental health, which thank you for addressing such an important subject, but like, are you writing strictly from personal experiences with it, or is there maybe like a lot of research that's kind of like conducted into the lyricism as well?
I mean, this album, if I was just to take Cannibal, it's not, this is not an album about mental health. It's an album about my personal experiences with mental health, if that makes sense, because, it'd be really easy for me to say, well, this song's about anxiety, and this song's about depression, and this song's about bipolar, and stuff like that, and it just wouldn't serve anyone any benefit, I don't think, because, mental health is such a personal experience, whether you have anxiety, depression, whatever you have, or whatever you're going through, it may not be the same as other people's who are suffering from the same thing. So, an important realization is that, lived experience is the most important aspect of understanding mental health, or understanding how you can kind of help yourself or others. So, but there is an element of research that kind of I've been on, I suppose, which will help, identify how to broach the kind of subjects. In that, I've done a lot of work when it comes to mindfulness and meditation and CBT and those kind of conversations. So I have a bit of the kind of clinical knowledge, but I'm not a clinician. So it'd be wrong for me to say that I am telling people what they need to hear, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's plenty of room for the album to be open to interpretation. It's not like you're trying to make the listener strictly see things from just your point of view.
Of course, man, of course.
Yeah, and one thing I was really curious about is when you look at the entire Bury Tomorrow catalog, I mean, when you go from, the Portraits album from 2009 to Union of Crowns to Black Flame and this album, is it almost kind of like, in a way, like a timeline of who you personally are? Do you almost kind of look at your catalog as like a self-portrait in a way?
Yeah, man, like, when we first wrote Portraits, I was like, some of those songs I wrote when I was 17 years old, like, it's crazy to think. I see it more an evolution of, like, how we write and, how much more solid we are as a band and cohesive kind of driving force of how the music links with the lyrics and the themes and the artwork and everything comes together. It screams to me of a much more mature band, that's comfortable in our own skin. We're not trying to prove anything anymore. We're just writing music that we love and that we know our fans love, and enjoying the ride as it is on the way. So, and I suppose the best thing I can look back with, if I'm honest, mate, is just nostalgia and good times, and this band's given me everything. I've had the opportunity to tour around the world and connect with some truly amazing people that aren't fans. They're my friends, they're my family, and so it's an opportunity for me to look back sometimes when I do have the chance and just be really grateful. We're very, very, very lucky to be able to do what we do, for sure.
Yeah, and as a fan of Bury Tomorrow, if you played me like 30 minutes to a minute of a song, I could tell that that's off of Earthbound, or that's off of Ruins, or that's off of the Union of Crowns, etc. So it's fair to say you guys have always liked to maybe experiment with your sound, or maybe even challenge yourselves in a way, right?
Yeah, for sure. And we're always looking for kind of producers or mixers to take us to that next level, whether that's Will Putney or Caleb Shomo, or, we just did Nolly, and we're always trying to up our game, but we're also trying to up our game musically as well. It's not just about being technical. We learned that a long time ago, that it's not just about riffing for a straight hour and a half. It's about creating songs that, and parts that service the song as a whole, so I think that's where maturity comes for bands, is that you may have a really good vocal hook, but the vocal hook is nothing without the kind of backing and the structured songwriting. So yeah, I mean, that's the part that we've learned. I haven't learned to scream any better. It's just how we write that and how I use my voice in a better way.
Yeah. And I'd imagine, too, has there ever been a time where you've had, the best lyrics ever, but then they're always, one syllable over or under the actual arrangements? It's always good to be with the company of your band, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's happened. But, for me, I pride myself in the fact that I am a lyricist. That's what I love to do. Take screaming out of it, take being a frontman out of it. Lyrics are, what got me into doing what I'm doing, and I had no aspiration that I wanted to be famous or I wanted to front a band. I had no drive to do that. I'm not really bothered about the rock star life or whatever. But for me, lyrics were really important. So I'm lucky that actually more times out than not I can kind of flip syllables or understand or pull out the old thesaurus and get different syllables for the same thing.
When it comes to like getting inspired to write, to like let the creative energy flow, do you need to like be in a certain place at a certain time in order to get inspired, or does inspiration sometimes just come out of nowhere?
For me, it just comes out of nowhere, if I'm honest with you. Like, other songs can do it, or other genres, so like, you know, I could listen to, I don't know, Adele or something and be like, or Lana Del Rey or something just really off the wall and be like, oh my god, like, I like what they're singing about, or that's what it means to me, so maybe I could write a song like that. But, you know, I don't necessarily need to go and sit in nature to connect with lyrics, because a lot of my lyrics are, you know, situational based or personal, and they're, you know, about everyday life. They're about the cities that we live in. It's about the interactions that we have, or what we're not focusing on, what we should be focusing on, like climate change and, you know, and being scummy towards our earth, and, you know, and that stuff you don't need to be, because it's all around you. So, yeah, I'm less of a kind of method lyricist and more of a just, it comes to me for sure.
Yeah, and like what I find unique is you mentioned that you try to like in a way capture a moment with your lyrics and stuff, but you know sometimes you're working on a song for days or weeks. If you're Tool, you're working on songs for 13 years. So like I don't know. So like, do you find it maybe like the longer you're working on something, the harder it is to kind of maintain that inspiration or that emotional spark, if you will?
I don't know. I get into like this weird spiral where it actually becomes more emotionally connected. So if anyone then at the point of pre-production tells me that they don't like a certain part, it makes it worse for me because I'm so emotionally connected with it. So for me, yeah, I mean, I get really, really into it, which is the right thing to do, because I think, you know, it's when it first comes up, when you first put it down on paper, it's not the finished article. It is nothing to be truly crazily inspired by, but you know, when it starts to take shape, there's nothing more amazing to kind of see a song that you had an emotion for, the guitars start speaking to that emotion, and the Jace's clean vocals and stuff get that emotion, you know, and that's when it really, really starts to take shape for sure.
And what I find unique is like when you're replicating this material live, is do you almost kind of like go back into living in that moment from when you first wrote the song in a way? Is it almost kind of like a time machine when you are on stage and you're playing that song live?
You know what, like weirdly, only the new songs. I only playing the Grey live, like, and Cannibal, where they are so emotive. Like, for me, I've always been a frontman. You know, I've watched people like Corey Taylor and you know, Jacoby Shaddix and the new metal era, and like they just live this persona of like being a serial frontman. And so like, you know, when I'm playing live, I tend to just enjoy the moment where I'm at. You know, rather than trying to like retrospectively look back at where I was at, I'm just in the moment, making sure that those people in front of me are having the best possible time. With the new songs, it's really hard to disconnect from like the personal nature of those lyrics. So it's a lot. We played the Grey on the last Black Flame tour, and it's an incredibly emotional song, not only in lyrics but also kind of how it feels. It's got that waltzy timing in the chorus, and so from that it led me to be. It was almost impossible not to be transported to the point of what those lyrics are about. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see when we actually finally get to play some of these songs live more regularly, how it transcends there, and actually it'll be quite a hard juxtaposition to what I usually feel, for sure.
You ready for the most difficult question of the interview?
Yeah, go.
How do you know when a song is done?
Oh, man. Like, well, it's weird. So some songs you can rip apart for like, you know, maybe a full 8 years, as you said. So, you know, but other songs are just magic, you know, like, and so other songs you just got to say, just stop, like, because you can make a song a lot worse. And we've been guilty of that, and have put songs out that actually probably would have been better on the first iteration. So we have been guilty. I look back over our back catalogue and go, oh man, when I heard that, if anyone could have heard that song when it first was in demo form, that would have been bigger. But, you know, it's about making peace with it. What's right for the song? What are you serving by ripping a song apart? And actually, other songs just studio magic. You just do a take, or you hear it for the first time, and it's just exactly what it should be. And you can, I don't know, there's no feeling like it really when you're in a studio, and you can just, something just bangs, and you're like, okay, like that's that's it, that's the one. And yeah, I mean, it's a universal moment as well. There's nothing quite like, 6 or 7 people being in a studio with the engineer and everyone's just like, oh my god, that's magic. And we're lucky because we've had quite a few moments like that. I look back and I think of Man on Fire, and I think about Lionheart, Honourable Rain. I also think about Black Flame, the actual song itself, Last Light on Runes. Like, I go back and I think about all those moments and I'm like, holy crap, like those are, Last Light on Earthbound, sorry. I look back and think, holy crap, like those were real moments. And then I now look back and actually, if I'm really, really honest with you, and this isn't just bigging up the new album, like, this album was filled with more of them than any point in our career, really. We were sat there and that's perfect, that's perfect, that's perfect. We can't change that. So yeah, it's a difficult one, but you can be your own worst enemy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it also depends, and this could just be me being, like, overthinking the album in a way, but, like, I feel like it also depends on where in the album it's going to be. Like, with Black Flame, for example, Peacekeeper, which was probably what I consider to be one of my favorite Bury Tomorrow songs ever, Peacekeeper could not be anywhere else on the album except for the end. Like, if I heard that in the beginning, it might not have the spark. If it was in the middle, not have the spark. Peacekeeper was like the ultimate ending song. So I also think that it depends on, like, the arrangement of the album in itself, the presentation.
Bro, like, it's really funny because, like, that's one thing I think that does come with experience. Like, when we first started making albums, like, portraits was like the hardest thing we've ever had to do, restructuring an album. But now we kind of know, I knew Dark Infinite on this record was going to be the last song. I knew it as soon as it was written. I was like, that's the last song. And I know what's going to be the first song. So our album could not have started without Choke. And the same as No Less Violent for Black Flame. Like, it was the first and last songs are the easiest. The kind of third and fourth songs are the easiest. Second easiest because they're like your singles. Kind of the hard ones are those kind of stops in motion. So for Black Flame we had Overcast, and that was kind of a stop in that kind of motion, and they're the hardest ones to pick. Like, when are you going to take it down? When are you going to take it from the heavy, fast speed to, like, this moment of, like, just reprise and stuff? So yeah, they're the bits that really you struggle with quite a lot. But as I said, I think it just comes with experience. You're kind of like, okay, how are we going to serve not only the song, but then serve the listener to listen to this as a body of work?
Yeah. I don't recommend listening to a Bury Tomorrow album on shuffle.
If you listen to it, it's quite funny if you listen to all of our songs shuffled. That's kind of weird.
Exactly. And the final question I wanted to ask you is actually, I've been asking a lot of bands, both of your style and from your region, but, like, with you guys coming from, like, the UK metalcore scene, like, with bands such as you guys, or Architects, or While She Sleeps, Bring Me the Horizon, Bullet for My Valentine, etc., like, it almost seems like, I'm just curious, is it maybe just, like, a coincidence that a lot of bands of the quote-unquote metalcore style are coming from your region? Because I've noticed that's been a huge genre appearing up in Australia as well as in Massachusetts, so it's happening in England as well in some of English colonies as well. So
yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I think Australia have Parkway. I think anywhere you have a massive metalcore band from, I think you're gonna smash it. Where are Killswitch from? They're from Massachusetts, aren't they? I think so. Yep. Pretty sure they are. So when you've got a massive band that hails from them, it creates a scene that, builds bands, and I think the weird thing with the UK is we were really late to the whole, backing tracks party, or, like, overproducing and overproduction. Like, when we first came to America in 2010, it was like, I was blown away by how many bands had kind of extra stuff on tracks. That's the norm now. Like, we've got, if we want an album to sound like our album, like Black Flame, we play over tracks because it makes sense, So, and obviously we don't play any instruments on that, just to be clear. We just put the backing track stuff. But, for us, I think the UK developed this scene. Architects have been a band for 5 years longer than we have. Like, they're pushing probably nearly 20 years of being in a band, and, like, you look at While She Sleeps, and they're all about the punk and the hardcore, and so I don't know. I think maybe there's a fight in the UK because we're a small island with lots of people trying to, do big things. But there's a lot of history there as well, Like, there's a lot of history from the UK and metal music and all that kind of stuff. You only need to look at like Black Sabbath and things like that, and Iron Maiden and stuff. So we had, if you were to say Pantera, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, well, we've got two of the big three. So kind of makes sense that we'd have quite a lot of metal bands that aspire to be like that over the generation. So,
yeah.
But yeah, we're lucky. You know, we're lucky also that we've got kind of our own nuance as well. So we sit in the metalcore world. Architects sit in that kind of techie, more melodic in places and ethereal music, and then like whilst you sit in that punk world, and then we sit in that, you know, metalcore, classic kind of Massachusetts style metalcore for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, it's funny because Bury or Dead, who kind of falls into that category as well, is from Massachusetts. So it'd be cool if you guys do like a switcheroo one day. Maybe like
Dude, like Bury or Dead are one of the first bands I got into. When I listened to House of Straw, like, or Beauty and the Breakdown, sorry, that was like one of my favourite albums coming up. And that's the point, you know, like, we are nothing new, but we're also harking back to the old. So Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, Unearthed, Darkest Hour, like Bury or Dead, like all of those bands like started our band. You know, 36 Crazy Fist. Like, you put all of those bands in a big picture, and they're all very, very similar of what they did. They just had different nuances. So I think that's where we're at.
Yeah. Can I ask you actually one more question, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you think metalcore actually is? Because I've had this discussion with so many bands, so many fans. Like, most people say, "Oh, it's heavy music that has singing and screaming in it," and then I always reply with, "So does that make Opeth a metalcore band, or Fear Factory a metalcore band? What is to you is metalcore?"
So metalcore was derived from the amalgamation of hardcore and metal. You know, that is the only thing it had. You know, it was so when it comes to like describing it, it's obviously got melody in it because hardcore's got melody in it, and, you know, post-hardcore had melody in it. But it's more about, you know, having not only singing and screaming but breakdowns, because traditional metal music didn't have that in it. So hardcore music brought that up. So yeah, so it's just amalgamation of melodic hardcore and metal music.
Yeah. I love how, as you're explaining that, the audio just got 10 times more clearer too. It's like WhatsApp knew that this needed to be the thing now.
Just because I've stepped out my car.
Awesome. So
amazing.
Before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Just obviously, you know, thanks to a virus that shall not be named, you know, no touring is happening anytime soon. But I'd imagine when all this is over, and it will eventually be over, we'll see Bury Tomorrow on the road quite a bit, right? Will you come to the States eventually?
With States. Yeah, I'm hoping we absolutely can, for sure. Like, that's definitely something we're planning on trying to get back to.
Awesome. Well, Danny, thank you so much. Everybody, we are here with Dani of Bury Tomorrow. Cannibal coming out this Friday. Be sure to pick it up then. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.